like to convene this meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission. Please give me a roll call.
Cox.
Present.
Collins. Natoli. Dickinson.
Mr. Dickinson is standing in the foyer there. Yeah.
Right. I'll recall him in a moment here. Yee.
Here.
Waters.
Here.
Pennell.
Here.
And Mr. Dickinson.
Roger. He's walked to the bathroom now.
Is present and will come in. No, that got changed earlier this year.
So he is not.
We will.
Okay.
We're waiting on a quorum.
Mr. Chairman, let me ask our counsel to certify that Mr. Dickinson is standing right there in the...
He's in John.
I'm sorry, but I didn't see him.
I saw Mr. Dickinson 2 minutes ago, so I know he's in the general vicinity.
We have a quorum for action items.
Yeah. Okay. This meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Commission is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the government affairs channel on the Sacramento Cable System. Today's meeting is being cablecast live and will be repeated Saturday, December 7th at noon. A VHS copy is also available for checkout from any library branch. Members of the audience wishing to address the commission should fill out a speaker identification form located on the back table and give it to the secretary. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the commission and state your name for the record. That is a paid political announcement by the city of Sacramento. I'll leave that alone. Mr. Dickinson is now here in the body.
Present.
So
Thank
we do
you.
have a body. I mean, a quorum.
He was always here.
He's always here. Commissioners, I want to change the agenda a little bit. I'd like to take number 2, the River City Cable Commission Camcos merger. I think that's not a lot of reports. I'd like to take that item. Anybody have any complaints with that?
No, I don't have a complaint. I'm wondering why they're still sitting on the opposite sides of the aisle.
I have no idea. Okay, so would you read item number 2 for us, please?
Okay, we'll find out.
Yes, we have River City Cablevision to Comcast merger.
Mr. Chairman, members, good afternoon. This is a request from River City Cablevision, the 5% owner of your current franchise, to approve to allow the presumption that a transfer of ownership is occurring to be rebutted, and to approve a name change of the named owner of the franchise of your Sacramento Cable Television franchise. As background, this is a process you've been through before. Recall that, Mr. Pennell, I don't believe you were on the board then, where there was a change in the named owner of the franchise that did not result in a transfer of control when the Scripps Howard Broadcasting Company merged in with the E.W. Scripps Company. The recommendation before you follows that same resolution and that same language. At the bottom line, what's happening here is Comcast, the new 95% owner of your franchise, has agreed to purchase the remaining 5% through a series of steps from River City Cablevision. I'll point out to you that early last summer, you were briefed on this by the attorneys involved in some litigation around it. The issue is now, I understand, in the process of being settled between them. That's not one of the things that you have to work on. But one of the issues that was raised was the importance of there being some local representation in the management of the company. That offered to you as a statement of staff, and you're making a determination today, and the staff recommendation is that you approve that you recognize that the role of River City has been limited at best over the last 10 years in the management of the company. And I'm comfortable that, I can advise you that it's my belief that the entire 100% of the franchise being managed by Comcast will not be operationally different than 95% of the franchise managed by Comcast. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them, as will Harriet.
Any questions by any commissioners?
Have none.
Okay, Chair, to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Cox, seconded by Mr. Dickinson. Does anybody in the public like to speak to this item? Hearing none, would you please give me a roll call vote?
Cox.
Present.
Collins. Natoli. Dickinson.
Aye.
Yee.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Pennell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Don't spend all that money, Ray.
Sam, it's not all mine.
Can we get item 1 now?
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, members, I'm sorry.
Item 1, franchisee, licensee, general status presentation.
Mr. Chairman, members, this is an invitation for you to, the routine invitation for your cable company to address you on changes and status of activities that are going on within the franchise. We have 2 significant things happening. One we'll touch a little bit in a little bit more detail under item 3, but there are 2 things occurring of major consequence to your subscribers, to our subscribers. One is a rate increase that is going to take effect in early February, actually February 1st, and second is a change in the channel positioning as proposed by Sacramento Cable Television. I've sent you some brief memos in advance on this, and those are the things I hope that SAC Cable representatives can speak to today. Otherwise, this is a SAC Cable's item. So,
Okay. Mr. Vile, I have a card from you, and I have a card from Ruth Blanks.
Yeah, I want.
How do you want to proceed? Is this a tag team?
Yeah, it's tag team. You got it.
Well, I hope y'all ain't holding in the clinches.
No, we ain't doing that. First of all, we'd like to congratulations to the chairperson.
No, that's by default. I'm only up here by default. I wasn't elected by my colleagues. Robbie told me he's my, he don't want to throw me out of this meeting either, so I'm just trying to survive today.
Well, first of all, on behalf of all the employees of Sacramento Cable and myself, we wish you all a very happy holiday season and trust that Santa Claus will bring you everything you hope for. What we want to share with you today is these channel lineup changes, as Rich had indicated, did we set this up here? I don't know, Rich.
It'll just, should just
would you
project.
pick up the overhead, please? They'll have to dim the lights.
Let me share with you why we're going through this exercise. One, as you all know, retrans and must-carry channel placement create the need for some of the change. The ease of grouping the like-type services together is beneficial to the viewers of our cable services, and they have made on numerous occasions requests for a modification of the lineup. And obviously it does create an enhanced value, perceived value, of our channel lineup. So what you have before you is the existing lineup as it is today. These changes we hope to take place probably the latter part of January. We're targeting January 28th. All our communication programs and whatnot are being backed down from the January 28th date. So that's the way it is today. The proposed lineup is, if you can see, this way. Now this is proposed because there are a couple of modifications that we may still be forced to make for various and sundry reasons, but before I go much further, I'd like to thank a number of people for their support and their guidance in the evolution of this channel lineup. Our access friends obviously have been intimately involved in these decisions. Our friends specifically at KBIE have working with us and Ruth in a number of ways are going to help us provide an enhanced programming offerings and services to the community. We are going to try to put Metro Cable 14 in a desirable position. There may be some problems with Channel 19.
We ain't got a TV.
Share with you, I don't know who all can see this, but one of the issues on Channel 19 reception is not very good for a number of reasons, specifically in Hub 0, the downtown area.
Here it is.
Of the way the squirrels seem to like our cable. Between now and probably the next quarter, we're going to invest some money to try to replace this cable downtown and shield it better. But right now, it is it's a little
yours is working.
It's a little messy, especially during the daylight hours.
So why isn't this working?
As clean as we would like.
Is this working?
But I think that can be mitigated with the replacement of some cable and then some shielding that we intend to place around Hub 0 and the areas where our friends squirrels live, I refuse to let squirrels outsmart us, so we're going to find some way to improve the reception in that channel area, in the channel 14 specifically. Ruth, do you have any comments?
Well,
here?
a couple of, I guess, highlights of the new channel lineup are that we're going to be moving two very popular channels off of a tier and onto expanded basics. So the History channel, which has had tremendous support from customers and been very popular, instead of being a tier channel available only at an extra cost, will be available on expanded basic, and so will Outdoor Life, which is also very popular in this area. So, and then the other thing is, the sports channels, news channels, etc., being grouped together is something a lot of customers have asked us to do. And then the third thing is that we're really getting very close to having some added foreign language product on, which has been something that we've had a lot of requests for, a very vocal group. And we're working with KVIE Cable to make that happen during some daytime hours and some weekend hours, having a number of different foreign languages represented there. And also we're working with KTSF in San Francisco to try to bring back some of that product during also in the evening and weekend hours. So there should be some pretty positive announcements about that soon.
And we will be adding some incremental product right after the first of the year that I think everybody in this marketplace will be excited about. In addition, as Ruth said, we are unbundling that new product tier and putting some very desirable services on the expanded basics level of service. So I think all in all, this is a definite improvement. I know it's a change. Change is never easy, and but it now was the time to do it. And I might add that within the next 24 months, when we get to digitization, we may find ourselves back before you offering a more improved or better recommendation. But at least for the next year or so, I think this will be a fairly desirable and acceptable channel lineup. So we have a timeline here that, with the assistance of the Cable Commission's executive director and his staff, they came over and we worked together in trying to make sure that our ability to reach the marketplace and all our customers in a timely and an effective fashion. We've come up with this communication plan, and Ruth, you may want to.
Well, we've already notified all of the grantees, so they know what their channel positions will be, and we're certainly going to assist them in letting their viewers know where to find them on the new lineup. Customers will receive a postcard channel lineup 30 days prior to the change with an explanation of the change, and also the week before the change. So they're going to get two channel lineups that way. We're going to have Sacramento Bee ads. We're going to be running cross-channel spots almost everywhere through the month of January, and also the preview guide, Channel 2, that everybody tunes into at some point during the day will have messages about the new channel lineup. And we're also going to have, we'll be sending remote control stickers in the February bill so that people can slap those on their remotes and be familiar with the lineup. So we realize that it's very disruptive to change the channel lineup, and we're going to do everything possible to make sure customers are aware of it ahead of time and have their new channel lineup card in hand when the actual switchover happens.
I want to add on this that we've been through this before, and as Ruth just said, these changes are tough. I'm not easily impressed. You pay me to be a skeptic. We did work together on this. I can't come up with any other thoughts that would make this plan any better as far as notifying 230-some-odd thousand subscribers of the change. We've gone back and forth in a 2 or 3 hour meeting. Maybe afterward we can do a little after-action look at and see what we could do different next time. But these notices coming out twice with the stickums for the remote controls, the cross-channel stuff, the newspaper ads, are going to take the best shot that I think Sac Cable can do to let people know that things are going to be different starting in February.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman, of the Executive Director. Why didn't you consult with the board about the lineup?
Okay, our role was to discuss the implementation plan. The lineup itself is within the discretion of the cable company. And in my opinion, and Attorney Counsel will back that, that's a First Amendment issue. How a cable company presents their channel lineup is something that they have choice over. And that we're not involved in the lineup. My comments are relative to the implementation plan and how we educate consumers about a major change in something very close to them.
Well, let's get on with it, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
There are three of us, Mr. Waters, myself, and then I think you want to speak.
right, I think I
Excuse me,
started initially.
Mr. Cox, let me run the meeting. I know you, are you finished?
I am.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Dickinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to throw this gavel at somebody for the day's out.
Are you not going to let Mr. Waters speak first?
Yeah, I'm going to let Mr.
throw
Waters
him a-
speak. He didn't say he wanted to speak. Are you speaking for Mr. Waters?
I thought Mr.
No,
Waters
Mr.
said-
Waters didn't say nothing.
I just discussed it with you. I planned to second.
I mean, I'll go over there and sit in your seat. You come over and sit in mine.
Can you put back up the proposed lineup and get on the screen for us what's between 36 and 47? I know 30. I guess you can't get that all on it.
Well, yeah, you're right. We can't get it all
Chairman would like
on.
to speak after Mr. Dickinson.
I can show you a hard copy, however.
Okay, I'm just trying to. Now, the idea, I gather, is to try to group like offerings in proximity to each other. And I don't know whether that works in tens or fives or whatever the groups turn out to be. But I hadn't. Okay, so
I don't think we have any control.
30 start with family product and moves into movies. There are a couple of anomalies because of must-carry requirements.
What? Must carry.
Up there, channel 3
okay,
and 13.
Thank you. 'Cause I didn't see them when you ran them up the first time. That actually helps. I had spoken to Wayne earlier this week on a very specific point about the placement of Metro Cable, because my impression is, based upon comments I get that I think are similar to those that almost all local elected officials get, is that people catch from time to time parts of meetings of one kind or another. And when you ask them about it, what usually turns out to be the case is they were surfing.
Yeah.
They were going from channel 13 to ESPN or something, and they see a local government meeting, they stop, they watch for a while. And I think that's of enormous value to have people, whether they happen upon it accidentally or otherwise, have the opportunity to see what happens in local government meetings. And in fact, even from time to time, people get energized enough to call or write or get involved in an issue, which is a great thing. Obviously, at the same time, there's a certain amount of channel identity that Metro Cable has with having been 14 for as long as it has. The initial plan, as I understood it, was to move Metro Cable into the 70s or thereabouts, and I see this lineup has revised that, and I appreciate that, not only going to 19. But in looking just first impression here, it looks as though what would be Metro Cable in 19 is moved into a place actually where there still will not get the benefit of much surfing, and maybe that's a debatable proposition, but with especially the sports channels moved up. See, I think that's where people really surf. Now, different people surf for different things, to be sure, but it looks to me as though Metro Cable is more or less moved into an area where there's less likely to be that kind of effect that I've described. Now, maybe there's some market research you guys have done that tells me my impression is incorrect, and I'm certainly open to that.
Actually, the most watched cable channel, or the one that gets the overall highest ratings, is USA Network, which is up there somewhere. But Discovery
Right.
is Discovery and A&E and ESPN, of course, are among the most watched. So that's a very, very strong area where 19 is, and I think there's going to be an enormous amount of grazing through that area. So I think
that's a high
good
traffic
place.
area, and it will be enhanced by once we make our decision on the product that we will put on Channel 18. I think it will even create more traffic for you. So I think that is a desirable place to be. It maybe not the most desirable, but it is a very desirable corner. And,
would there be room to consider leaving Metro Cable at 14 and just bumping the others down one?
As we said, this is a proposed lineup, and yes, to answer you specifically, we will continue to evaluate, trying to be responsive to the request and understanding the need to keep our marketplace well-informed, and if it can be done and be done in a fashion that's consistent with the overall objective, we clearly are going to be responsive.
Yeah, I do want to be clear that I appreciate the consideration that's been given, and I know I'm not the only one who's mentioned this to you. So I think we ought to be absolutely clear that we appreciate the consideration thus far. But I just looked at this, and you wouldn't lose that much if you left it at 14. We wouldn't lose our channel identity for Metro Cable, and ESPN and the other ones would be almost where you have them now. I mean, bumped one slot. So maybe that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, while it would be, I think, the most desirable for us, for Metro Cable. So I'd commend that to your consideration.
And absolutely, and we will do so.
The other thing that we didn't talk about, of course, were the SECC channels, for example, suffering that same effect if people have basic cable but only cable-ready equipment that goes to less than 70.
We'll provide them with converters.
And I understand that's so they can have converter boxes for free under that forever.
Well, we'll
isn't quite clear how that works.
We'll deliver them for free.
Oh, and then they get to pay for them.
And we'll certainly make sure that we can get them some of the lower cost converters. But there's the same issue now where there are a few channels that are up there on the lineup, and we really haven't had any issues with people needing converters to get all the channels.
Can you put some numbers to that, Ruth, in the sense of what's the capacity of the subscribers to now get up to 70, up to what you offer today without a converter? Do you know those kinds of things?
Well, I don't know the numbers, but there are very few cable-ready sets that get fewer than 90 channels.
Well, that are on the market today. But I mean, a lot of us didn't buy our television or our VCR even last year or the year before. I just wondered if you know what the makeup of the subscriber base is in that respect of capability of receipt of signal without, or channel without converters. That's not something accumulated, huh?
Don't know the number.
I'm sure it's probably a number we can come up with.
We have, I think, as a community, a real investment in those things that are locally originated. They are, in fact, part of what makes cable special and unique. I mean, if all I want is movies, I can go buy a DirecTV or a little dish. Exactly. And that's why, I mean, it seems to me, although you are by far more expert in this than I will ever be, that there is a marketing advantage as well to say you can get locally originated programming, public access and the like, with our product that you can't get from other people. And pretty soon the over-the-air network channels are going to be available by direct television, I suspect, by one means or another. So that will even make them more difficult to compete with. But the point is simply that if you have some element of your subscribers who either can't get something that makes you unique, or they have to pay money to get it that they could avoid with different channel placement, seems to me that's that's not only a loss to us, it's a potential loss to you.
I think part of the communication plan is going to be to the limited basic customers to make sure that they're aware that if they can't get all of the channels that they're looking for with their set, that we will provide them with a free delivery of a converter so that they can get everything. So we will communicate with those customers specifically.
We've done everything we can, at least at this point, to try to mitigate any disruption. We understand completely what you're suggesting. You do establish a franchise on a particular channel, and you hate losing that. But as I said, this is going to happen again. As technology evolves, digitization makes itself available, we may be back doing some other things down the road. But clustering or blocking off like-type services, based on the research we have from the bulk of our cable subscribers, this was a desirable direction from their standpoint. And we're trying to respond to all our masters. I hear your concerns, and we'll go back and reevaluate our position on Channel 14 specifically. And if it will ease the burden on a few, it's worth doing. And so we'll do what we can for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Cox?
Can I go after?
Yes.
Well, let me just begin by asking a couple of questions, because I was afraid you were going to say you could feel our pain as you expressed your feeling you could hear our concern. Could you supply the Commission with subscriber data that you have received that has moved you in the direction of this clustering? You indicated that you had received significant requests from the subscribers. Could you supply the Commission with that data?
Well, we can certainly supply you with some viewership, and we have letters and letters and letters, and we have a variety of research that we're happy to share.
Really, it's not from the subscribers. It's really from the research data that you think you have developed as it relates to the marketplace.
It's from both.
I see. Okay. What's the first tier rate currently?
It's 1096.
How much?
1096.
1096. And 1096 gets you into what cable? Top tier, top 19, 21? What is it?
27 channels.
Through 27. And then it goes from 1090 to what?
2391 combined.
Incremental 11 plus $1.
And then that gets you to what?
59 channels total.
And then it goes to what?
Then it's pay TV, premium television.
Then when you move into the top of the category, into the 70s, what's the premium for that? Is that the $23.95? The $23.95 gets you all the way to the top?
Gets you all 59 channels.
Okay, and that takes you from channel 0 all the way up to 99 or 80, 82. There's currently some things on 82, 81.
Right, minus any premium television.
I understand that part, but that $23.95 takes you all the way up there?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Mr. Dickinson asked you, but you didn't seem to have this at the time. Can you tell me how many people just belong to your basic tier, your number through 1 through 27? You have 225,000 subscribers.
Roughly 30,000.
How much?
Roughly 30,000.
And so the others belong to
the expanded basic.
To the expanded basic.
And there are a percentage, 8 to 12,000 of the 31,000 that have a converter box that would allow them to have access to a la carte options if they so choose.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that you would, those people who were in the basic tier who wanted to get the Access Sacramento or the county or government channels, you would take out a converter to them, and then what would they get with the converter? They could hook it up, and then they wouldn't be charged for the additional.
There will be hardware cost, but we are prepared to offer the truck roll free of charge to them.
But they have the ability to come to your facility and pick that converter up. But you intend to, if they want to go beyond channel 27. In other words, to get 28, 29 all the way up, you then propose charging them some additional dollars for that.
Hardware costs for the converter,
But
and whatever the incremental rate is.
But so you in fact are, to the extent a person has been watching 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, and 20, if they are in this basic tier now, in order for them to receive that in the future, they would have to pay more, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The charge would be, but the converter charge currently would be 88 cents. So it's.
I mean, you can go out and pick one of those up, though. By you can take it back or pick it up. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. What you do is increase your revenue base. Do you remember our original discussion when Comcast was came to this commission and was talking about acquiring the system, and the issue was raised as to whether or not Comcast as such was an entity that was friendly to the community? Do you remember that discussion?
I do.
Would you say that the impression that this board had was that it was friendly to the community and it was really had a community interest in mind?
I believe so.
And is it your judgment that by moving these 5 channels or 6 channels to the top of the tier is considered to be friendly in your judgment?
I'm not sure it's considered to be friendly. I mean, clearly the remote control makes things a lot easier for the consumer,
Yeah.
but there are some 200,000 people that you do have to respond to as well. And it is a matter of viewership. Who's watching and how much are they watching?
Mm-hmm.
As I say, trying to create a scenario that pleases everyone is very, very difficult. By no means are we suggesting this as a cure-all, but it is a direction that we feel, based on the input from the marketplace, based on raw data and research, that it does create a perceived value. There are some people that are going to be disenfranchised. We are trying to mitigate that as best we possibly can.
Mr. Valls, let me tell you, as one commissioner, I believe it's a business mistake in judgment to move 76, 77, 78, or move the channels that are currently 14 through 21 to a tier that you're proposing moving them to. And I want to say that to you. I want to say it to you very clearly. There were reasons for us to be suspect at the time this merger went about. You assured us that this would be a community-friendly cable system. I certainly have been one of the bigger defenders of the cable, your company, over the past years that I've been on this board. I do not consider this to be a move in that direction. And I want to state very clearly to you, without any equivocation, that I think it's a mistake in business judgment. Now, Mr. Dickinson is, with his legal skills, is more suave in telling you that. But I want you to have no misunderstanding. I don't agree that this is a First Amendment issue. I think you have a duty and a responsibility to this community that you're about to try to get out of by simply moving these 5 channels into the 70s. And so whatever consideration that you have in terms of relooking at this, I would strongly urge you to do that. Because there is a spirit of cooperation that you need to get from this board. And I want to tell you, I am one commissioner that is not happy about your proposal. I want to be sure you understand that. I'm not happy about this proposal. I'm not happy that you're moving these 5 channels to the 70s. It is purely, in my mind, simply a money issue. And I understand money, but I think this is a profit motive. I think, frankly, you misled us when you were in here talking about the merger, about how you were going to be a friendly commission or a cable company to this community. And so I just want you to know, and I hope that the B reporters here, I hope he prints every word that I've said, because I can generate for you 500 telephone calls a day.
We understand your concern, and we will try to be as responsive as possible.
Well, you can respond to me by now saying, well, we'll just leave those 7 channels where they are and move everything down. You can do that today. Just make that decision today, and I'll be a very happy camper.
Unfortunately, I can't do that today, but I can tell you that we will reevaluate our position, and we'll do everything we possibly can that makes sense to mitigate any viewing ship disruption.
I'm not interested, by the way, in just channel 14. I believe that there's a fiduciary responsibility to Access Sacramento and also the Religious Coalition. Okay?
I hear
you. Mr. Waters?
Thank you. Well, from what I read in the paper, we were 77 and now we're down to 19, so we're making some progress. But I certainly would echo what Commissioner Cox has to say. Is that correct? We're at 19 now?
19. Yeah, we're 19.
We're getting back down closer. But I would have to echo what Dave said, that Access Sacramento and these other channels are up there, and I still haven't heard the answer that 2 people have asked you now. Maybe I just don't understand it. If I'm one of the economy basics paying I'm going to go up 90. I'm going up $1 right now into the new rates to $11.89, correct?
We have...
All right, I've got the chart here, and I'm going to just read it, and I'm sure it's accurate. But it says, currently you pay $10.96 for your basic... What? Economy basic, $10.90. It's going $11.89. Now, what the question I didn't hear answered was, you're going to deliver the converter free, which we could go out and pick up ourselves. Is that 88 cents a month for these people that have economy basic in order to watch what we know today is Sacramento Access in these channels? Is it going to cost the customer 88 cents a month to be able to do this, even though you deliver it free, you call it a truck charge or whatever?
Well, again, we don't, the percentage of customers who don't have a set capable of receiving those channels now, or who don't currently have a converter, is going to be very, very small.
But we don't know those numbers.
No, we don't know the numbers, but we do know that most cable-ready sets, even 5 years ago, received more than 70 channels. So it's going to be a very, very small number that can't get them.
Like Mr. Dixon said, there are a lot of us that have televisions that are more than 5 years old and are working fine. But the point is, my question, the third time, I guess I don't know, is it going to cost that person in the economy basic that doesn't have a television 88 cents a month more? Yes or no?
If they request a converter, yes.
So they can watch what they could now watch today free. It's going to cost them 88 cents more, correct?
Well, if somebody right now is receiving, it has a TV set that only gets channels 2 through 13, they're paying that right now. They're paying the extra 88 cents.
Okay, so are there only 2 kind of televisions then? The old-fashioned ones that go from 2 to 13, and the ones that start, like you're talking about, that go all the way up to 99?
Oh, no, I think there's
some in the middle, right?
Sure.
So some of these people would fall in there, so that, in fact, it's not a correct statement then. If they do own something that gets from, say, 1 to 21 or 1 to 25, whatever it be, they would not need a converter, correct? To watch 17 as we know, or 14, 18, and 19, or 17.
Right, although there are a few economy basic channels that are above that right now.
Okay. So that would generate, and we don't know these numbers because you don't have them, but you're talking about 30,000 customers, and a lot of these in the economic basic plan, if I think that's what was just stated. So if we take 10% of those, that's $3,000 a month more income to you, right, at 88 cents a piece, to watch something they're now seeing free, is my point. And this is why I agree with what Dave said about taking these and moving them up to that high end. Another question, I don't watch very much television, so I'm quite ignorant of what's on television, although the other night I did watch, and correct me if I'm wrong, Wayne, you got number 2 is your preview of the channels that rolls, and I thought I saw it at the end when I was surfing up, about 90. Is there also?
We would duplicate it at the high end, channel 2.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that a different frequency? It must be if it's on 99.
It's one of those A-1, A-2 areas. That's where these incremental channels are coming from.
Because my thinking was, in order to get us down a little lower, is put your preview at the end rather than at 2. And if that would free, and I don't know the technical end of this, if that would free up 2 or not. And what's TBD? That's to be decided? So that's it. So today we could be, how many more do we have left of access? 2 more? Is there a total of 3, counting 14 today, as we know it? 14?
17, 18, 21, 22.
Total of 4, including us?
4.
Okay.
17, 18,
There's
21,
a total of
17.
7,
How many?
Mr. Waters, 7.
Yeah, but
So it's Channel 7, Channel 14.
No, I mean, they're already staying there. I'm talking
Yes.
about the ones that are getting moved up here to
Channel 7.
17, 7
No,
staying?
7 is staying,
Yeah, 7,
and you have
6 are
14 and
staying.
19. There are 5 others that are moving up in the 70s. if I
Including
can-
channel 14.
No, right now you have 14 at 19.
Okay, so and
on
then
the
you still have
proposal.
how many that you'd have to have a converter?
It looks like there's 5 in the
Channel
70s.
7 is now being moved. The proposal, is it not?
No, Channel 7 remains on Channel 7.
6 and 7 are saying exactly where they are now?
Right.
On the proposal before you
I
was,
have says that they're moving to 76.
That's probably an old.
It's old.
Yeah.
So, what I'm saying, if we got one, number 18 is not assigned, that would take, and you got 4 that we're having problems with, but that are up too high, and in our opinion. So, we could only, and if we did something with 2, would that allow us to at least get 2 of the most, of course then there'd be a fight amongst the 4, but could we get 2 of those 4 or 5 people back down into this area?
Excuse me, Mr. Waters. I think for me as chair, I think what you're stressing is that the board wants to see something change. I don't think it's appropriate for us to try and make that happen there. I think we give him the information and let him bring something back to us that either we agree with or don't agree with.
Well, we don't have any say, there's a problem, Sam.
Well, but I think he's getting the crux of what we're
Well,
saying.
I'm saying. So then I have one more question, if I might, Sam.
Okay, I think it's good.
And that is, I hear you saying we're going to take a look at this, and we appreciate, and you appreciate our input and so on and so forth.
That's why I proposed.
But let me
I anticipated some trouble.
Okay. Then I'm saying, I guess, asking a very pointed question, if some changes can be made, are you talking about, because you talked earlier about a year from now we'll be looking at maybe doing this and that. Are we going to have to wait a year for this for you to look at our suggestions, or could it be modified on the Sacramento Bee advertising if you in fact change this again?
You're not going to have to wait a year for anything. We're going to have to do something between now and the 28th. So
Okay,
you'll
that's
get back
my
to you ASAP.
that's my point. All right.
My point is, from the technological standpoint, new technology may require other modifications. That's down the road. So
Okay.
this is going to be something that's evolving.
This is not in concrete today. Then this is what's up here on our board.
It is a recommendation that the cable operator strongly recommends.
And in closing, I guess if we could.
Let me ask a question.
Can I just
I have people lined up.
Okay.
I will call them in order. Don't
Last
just
point,
make
and
sure
I'm
you just
done.
gavel on folks.
Last point, and I'm done. I would appreciate if some consideration could be given to one of the channels that are up in the 70s to be at least put into 18, and if 2 possible also, and that's all I have to say. Thank
And
you.
Mr. Yee, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Purnell, or Mr. Chair. Wayne, I tend to have to agree with some of the comments earlier by Mr. Cox and Mr. Waters.
You want to speak?
Although, from a selfish standpoint, looking at your top 20 there, I could probably cut my monthly cost down in half, because it pretty much includes many of the stations I look at. It's of course I'm more sports minded, and they're all in there. However, WON and WTBS is not in there.
Right.
Those are about the only other 2. But
Mr. Yee?
other than that,
Let me interrupt for a second, and I caught it from a couple of you. Just clarify something. Sacramento Cable is changing the channel numbers of the Economy Basic Service. That is 27 channels. They will be spread through the entire lineup. It isn't the first 27 channels that will be available. So just because you see ESPN down at channel 15, it doesn't mean it's going to be on the Economy Basic tier.
So let me get this, Rick. So what you're saying?
spoke up sooner.
Yeah. So the argument is.
Well, but it doesn't make any difference.
Well, it does.
Not going to cost
What do you mean it doesn't? It doesn't cost.
Yeah, well, it's the difference between 27 channels and the first 27 channels.
Correct.
And I think Mr. Yee was
which is
assuming.
a clarification.
Yes, Mr. Yee
I
was
was under
assuming.
the assumption that the first 20 was going to be in the lower tier, and then.
No, they will be spread all over the channel lineup.
I'm glad you stepped in, because that is not quite the same problem that I had listened to earlier. And unfortunately, Wayne, most of us are used to channel numbers, and
I hear you.
It takes a whole new set of mind to take a look at it again. Although when I go back east and watch my son-in-law's television set, it's the same situation. I got to get my mind all changed around again to see which channels are which. But no, I guess the primary thing boils down to if you can keep 14 where it's at, because that would be a real advantage. My other question, of course, has to do with KTSF. Is there still some effort being made?
With Ruth's effort and the efforts of KVIE and still this low power situation, I think tremendous progress has been made.
We're waiting for KTSF to get on a low power antenna in Sacramento, and we've already talked about the hours of programming and so forth, so we're very close.
That's good to hear, because it's been 4 years, and I think I've been very patient.
Well, we have to thank our friends at KVIE as well. They're working very hard to help supply improved programming on this Econo basic service. So.
Yeah. I guess my last comment is if you can put HSN, QVC, and HSC up there, 177 wouldn't bother me. Well, that's shopping that way.
Okay, Mr. Cox?
Well, I understood all along that you're talking, there's technological ability to, in fact, have the box recognize channels as certain, I understand
channel
that.
Mapping, as they call it.
I appreciate that. That's not my issue. If you're really sincere about trying to get people moving up and down that spectrum of channels, you would move channel 3 up to about 60, and channel 10 up to about 80, if you were really sincere about that. The fact of the matter is, it's the first 25 or 30 channels that get the greatest amount of viewing audience. Plain and simple. And so I still register my complaint, and I'm very serious about the aspect of being on that low end of the box. That's where we ought to be. And for you to put WGN 26, WTBS 27, KFL in 28, KCMY, just move those down. And you have the ability to leave 14 and the remaining channels exactly where they are.
Let me add one thing for the record to help you, Mr. Cox, just so that our learning curve is going here. Under current federal law called must carry, the cable company has very little discretion in where those channels which are receivable over an antenna can be placed. Channel 3 must be placed on 3 unless 3 agrees to a different location.
I understand.
I want to add that.
Thank you.
I
understand that.
Okay.
Thank you. I have one person, Ron Cooper, will speak to this item.
I can surf my station a lot quicker than the first 20.
I told you 2 years ago when I came on the commission, it's right around the corner of the Asian channel. She said that coming up.
I wanted to look at the overhead too, if you would have a copy of that. My name's Ron Cooper. I'm Executive Director of Access Sacramento. And I was just chatting with my good friend and colleague Liz Rhodes of the ED Consortium, and I appreciate not only the comments that have been made thus far on behalf of the local channels, but also want to start off my comments thanking Sacramento Cable for sending the alert out and letting us know that the changes were happening. And I let Ruth know that, and I want to reiterate that in public today. That doesn't mean that we're happy about it. My understanding is that limited basic, by law, must be available to all cable homes. So I ask help of the Commission Council.
Is limited basic channels a must in all cabled homes? Is there any language to that effect?
No, I think that the PEG access channels have to be available on limited basic, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we can say which actual channels the PEG access channel, which channel numbers they have. They have to be available on the limited basic or economy basic.
Actually, you're hitting us kind of cold, but I'm going to interrupt Harriet on this one because I'm a little ahead on that section. The federal law says that the public education and government programming channels, which wasn't exactly Ron's question, can be placed anywhere unless the franchise specifies otherwise. Your franchise does not specify that the PEG channels must be placed on the lower tier, on the economy basic tier. It would be within Sacramento Cable's discretion on a purely regulatory legal basis to move the PEG channels to the full basic, to the expensive tier, to the more expensive tier. They have chosen not to. Is there a requirement that all homes get limited basic service? The requirement is worded, everyone desiring to take cable must go through an entry-level tier. In this case, it's called economy basic. The structure of that is defined in federal law to include the off-air channels, and in our case, Sacramento Cable adds the PEG channels and any other channels they wish to put on economy basic. Some cable systems put Disney on economy basic or other highly valued channels as a way of doing their particular marketing thing. The only other statement that the law says is that there is no requirement to buy through. It used to be that you had to buy the first tier and the second tier before you could have the option of taking premiums. The new law changes that and says you can take the economy basic first tier and go directly to premiums without having to take the in-between expensive tier. And that summarizes the changes since in 92 and 94. I'm sorry, 94 and 96.
So let me try it again. Is PEG access a requirement of the economy basic in Sacramento?
No.
That's news to me.
It is not specified in the franchise documents as something that must be required on economy basic.
My point being that, as I understood the explanations today, and I think there was some confusion on a part of several of the speakers, my understanding today, though, is that there are going to be, for example, cable-ready or cabled through the VCR that will not be able to receive the local channels, the PEG channels. And I wanted to put this up because this was what I asked. First off, I didn't get this channel lineup directly from the cable company, so we had no sense of what was the lineup that was actually being proposed. I did have a very cordial conversation with Ruth, and she was kind of answering some specific questions that I had, but Rich was nice enough to fax over a document. So this is the document that I think Supervisor Cox was referring to, wherein KVIE 7 had moved up to the 70s, and Metro 14 had moved up to the 70s. Let's see, Metro was 70, Ed Consortium 71, 72, KVIE Cable was now 76, and we were at 77, 78, and the Religious Coalition at 79. So I guess my point, and I go back to several of the comments, but I think Supervisor Cox was quite eloquent in this regard. What is going on is a decision of leverage. But even between this document and the document that's being presented today, and as I listen to the Sacramento Cable representatives, Cable 7 stays Cable 7. Metro Cable is back up into the top 20 channels, up at 19, not at 14, but certainly at 19. The other 5 community channels are in the 70s. It is more difficult to get to the 70s. I have experienced cable systems personally wherein the cable is hooked in through the VCR and goes to 46. And the access channels are actually on 71 and 72. This is a TCI system in Santa Cruz. And the awkwardness of it is tremendous because you can't go past 46. In order to get the access channels, you have to actually enter 71. and then you have to enter again 72. There is no surfing. There is no, gee, maybe we'll see it as we look at other things. And so I think that in the kind of vagueness about answering this question about how you're going to access these channels, I think that there is some genuine concern. It's already quite clear to me that if this had been published in the agenda of today's meeting, that indeed there was a channel lineup change, I'm sure there would have been some folks here, certainly about the increase in fees. I'm sure there would have been a lot of folks here. Again, I marvel at the difference between this lineup and the lineup that's being presented today, that there is movement being made, and I heard Mr. Val say that, yes, indeed, it's based on something. It's not science, though. And let me point out another interesting fact here. You have the Ed Consortium at 71, 72. You have Access Sacramento and the Religious Coalition in 77 through 79. And every single one of these Cable Commission meetings, commissioners have railed about the shopping channels. And Councilman Yee just reiterated what has been said so many times before. If they could be kicked up higher, so be it. Our channels are community, they're local, they are nonprofit, non-commercial. Right in the middle of the 70s are the most crass commercial channels you can possibly put in there. And so I offer, this is not science. There's no science about this whatsoever, and I dispute any notion of that we have statistics that prove anything. I heard mentioned that Cable 7 remains at 7 because of an agreement to run foreign language programming on channels 17 and 18, and I know also in the Ed Consortium, but speaking of Access Sacramento channels, for many years now, 30% of our program is in languages other than English. So 17 and 18 have served those diverse communities very well. We have no plans to change. It's that type of environment. I also, just in making my concluding remarks here, wanted to hand out this article from the October 21st Multi-Channel News. This is the kind of the Journal of the Industry of Cable. I've already shared this document with Mr. Val when it was first published. The name on there is quite interesting. Comcast tries to project local image. Michael Doyle, Senior Vice President, Comcast Cable Communications Northeast Region. Now, on May 21st, I look at my calendar, May 21st, Mr. Doyle and other significant folks from Comcast made their first visit to Sacramento. In the offices of Sacramento Cable, the Ed Consortium and Access Sacramento were invited to meet these folks. At that time, the Ed Consortium and Access Sacramento laid out what this article describes. That local is good. As Mr. Doyle says, it is our signature channel for our customers. They have converted their systems in Philadelphia, the home office, 1.2 million subscribers, so that they do local sports, local live programming for call-in about health and family issues, educational channels, working with all the major universities in the area. And this was implemented as a soft rollout in July. And I joked with Mr. Val, at least somebody was taking notes in that meeting, because Mr. Doyle seems to have learned quite well what seemed to be really important here in Sacramento, and went back and, in fact, implemented policy. Now, I'm not saying that Comcast didn't have this in the works, that it had no relation to our May meeting, but I do strongly suggest that the idea of proposing at this meeting that somehow Comcast is saying that the access channels and the local channels on that upper tier make good sense flies in the face of what they're doing in the home office. So I appreciate the comments that have been said thus far. As Mr. Esposito points out, it's a business decision. I'm a little surprised that the lowest tier of service is somehow not mandated.
Ron, I want to apologize.
Yeah.
And I'll stand corrected. The franchise doesn't require the documents to be, the paid channels to be in the lowest tier, but that's one of the things we negotiated in the transfer, and my head wasn't thinking about transfer, I was thinking about FCC regulations. I apologize. In the transfer you approved in June, I'm sorry, not quite that far back, but I guess it was June, it's gone quickly. One of the conditions of the transfer was that Comcast agreed, or Sacramento Cable agreed, to maintain the paid channels on the entry tier. So Ron was correct. It was the source of the information that I got.
And if you listen, I appreciate that, Rich, because my memory was really fogged. If someplace along the line we didn't catch that, because that was not that long ago. It really wasn't that long ago. And so my point is, I am still confused. I think as you listened to the Sacramento Cable representative today, they are confused are all cable homes in Sacramento County going to be able to receive the economy basic? The answer to that, I heard, is no, not without additional charges. Or we will provide something now, but just in transition, and later it will cost. And therefore, it is an extra burden, makes it that much more difficult, and that fewer homes will be able to receive those 70 channels. And the simple answer to all of this is what has been said before. If not on the current channels, to make sure, just as Metro Cable was able to exact, just as KBIE 7 was able to exact, that the community channels stay low enough so that those cable-ready homes with VCRs and TVs can receive them. That's the simple answer to this. If they have to change, they have to change. But moving to 70, we're going to lose some significant thousands of homes that can even possibly see it, which is in violation of the agreement. Thank you.
Okay, I have nobody else signed up to speak.
Well, Mr. Pennell?
So it's up to this is just a receive and file.
Can I have staff respond to that last statement there?
Let me clarify what is on site, the transfer document.
Starting to confuse me.
Yes, and if for your permission, I'd like to come back to you with a somewhat technical explanation of what the options are, what is happening here, with some best guesses on people who will be impacted by having to have a converter box to receive these higher number channels.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I'm hearing from board members, Rich, is that they want you to come back with an explanation on some of the questions that have been brought up.
Right.
And Wayne, I think what they want is they want you to come back with some data and information on the channels. And do we have some options? And I think that makes some sense. Bottom line for me, we're all here to work together, and that's what I want it to be. It ain't like them against us or we against them. We're trying to do what's best for the citizens of this community. So that's what I want to see happen.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
yes,
I want to be sure that I do have some specific. I'm not interested in having the Channel 14 currently, or the educational channels, or the religious coalition move down. I don't want any options. I want them left in that tier. I don't want to move. I want to be sure that everybody understands that. I think
Mr. Cox, I think everybody understands that. But like everybody else up here, we all have a vote. So I mean, you've stated your position. Your position has been stated well. All right. So I'm just saying that I think all of them have been put on the table.
Okay. I'm not looking for options, Mr. Chairman. We'll be sure about that.
Okay, that's fine.
I just have one other thing I'd like to say.
Excuse me, Mr. Waters.
Thank you. Rich, you said you'll come back. Is that after the fact, after they've already been in the newspaper and everything saying this is going to be, or how are you going to get back to us? Our meeting will be after that's already been published. Question one, and question two is the one that Ron that I'd really like an answer to, or maybe from Harriet. Is this in fact a violation of our agreement or contract with Comcast? Like Ron just stated. I'm not saying whatever he said.
To the issue of Ron's question, to the issue of clarifying what's in the transfer documents, and to the issue of giving you some additional background on my best guesses on how many converter boxes will be impacted if these changes are made. I'll have that memo out to you by tomorrow night.
Okay. And we'll have an answer to Ron's statement about that or I'd like some legal.
Right.
Because we have no control over what they do. We're well aware of that, at least I'm well aware of that. And so I'm saying if there's some kind of a violation of our understanding or contract or whatever you call it, agreement, then maybe we have a legal angle to put some more pressure on.
When I looked at this, I did not believe that moving the channels in the manner proposed violated the transfer resolution or the franchising. Okay. I will look at that again, however, over the next day.
Mr. Dickinson?
Essentially, I had the same questions as Mr. Waters. Is really the process question is, I mean, we leave here today. We don't meet again until after March. The start of the year. Sacramento Cable is going to implement changes, whatever they turn out to be, before not implement them, but decide on them and begin that notification process before the end of the year. So,
does that prohibit us, Rick, from calling a special meeting of the commission?
Not at all, sir.
And my suggestion was that as soon as we have the information, maybe the chair, if he really has a problem, we'll call a special meeting of the commission to deal with it.
Good idea.
Seems to be a major problem, and I want to try and work it out. That's what we'll try and do.
I would much rather see that happen also, because then Sacramento Cable or whoever, Wayne can come back with answers rather than writing that we can chat about.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think the threshold, Mr. Chair, if I may, the threshold question is whether we have any authority to do anything.
That's true.
If the answer to that is no, then let's not have a meeting.
Then we're just blowing in the wind.
Yeah. I think Wayne and Ruth obviously have heard our concerns about channel placement.
We'll address that and have paper to you late tomorrow, first thing Monday.
All right. Chair, tentative a motion to receive and file.
Move.
Moved by Mr. Yee, seconded by Mr. Waters. Can I have a vote, please?
Cox,
Tell me the motion.
Receive and file, Mr. Cox.
All right.
sorry. Natoli,
Aye.
Dickinson,
Aye.
Yee,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Pennell,
Aye.
receive and file,
Okay.
carries. Motion
Next.
carries.
Next item, please.
Sacramento Cable, February 1st, 1997 rate increase.
We're rolling now, huh?
Now, this ought to be a doozy. Well, I hope you brought your boxing gloves, Wayne Bow.
Let me begin with some
I
background.
feel like Joe Lewis for the days out.
Just to refresh a bit. Under the Rate Regulation Authority, came out of the Cable Act of 92 and went into effect in 93, which we have certified to follow. Your authority is over the economy basic service tier, the one that you referenced, which is currently at $10.96. The analysis done by your consultant, however,
This is what I am.
addressed, to the extent we had data, both. The analysis of your consultant and staff, as revised by Sacramento Cable, is that the maximum permitted rates they propose in their Form 1240s complies and comports with the FCC's regulations. I'll point out that in the process of the analysis, one of the questions asked by your consultant generated or triggered a revision by Sacramento Cable, which dropped the increase by 30 cents and has an overall effect of some $800,000 a year. As I have put to you previously, when we have completed our analysis of Sacramento Cable's filing on rates, that is their proposed revised permitted rates, I've advised you that it is not necessary for you to take any action. It's my belief that the rates be allowed to take effect without your recommendation as long as they comply with the regulations. That leaves some openings for you of a legal nature should it ever be necessary. It hasn't been necessary. I also think, just as a recommendation from the staff person, that adds a condoning or an acceptance or an agreement to the rates that isn't necessary for you to take. Bottom line, the analysis has been complete. The recommendation is that you receive and file, and the maximum permitted rates allowable by Sacramento Cable under the FCC's regulatory program are those on the page before you. I believe, however, you should hear what Sacramento Cable has to say in regards to their rate changes.
As Rich stated, the allowable adjustment would allow us to take our rates up to $26.96. I am happy to share with you that we're not going anywhere near $3.05 rate adjustment. Our rate adjustment is going to be $2.08, or in essence an 8.7% increase. Relative to Mr. Cox, and it's about money, I think this is an indication, sir, it's not always about money. We could have gone to 305. We choose to do a more prudent thing, try to make everything as palatable as possible, not be greedy at all, add product as quickly and as possibly as we can. I think you're seeing that. Comcast signed off on this. I think, Rich, or in some of the press releases in the past, you've seen that the cable company always takes its maximum allowable. Fact is, that's not being done here. As we all know, the cost of entertainment goes up. It's expensive. And we are just trying to do the prudent thing and at the same time run our business in such a fashion, in an efficient fashion, that we can keep our price points at the lowest possible point, providing the highest possible quality. And I hope you will indicate or see that that's, in essence, what we're trying to do for the city of Sacramento. As you'll also note, rates are going down on the hardware. The zero box is 60 cents. It's not 88 cents, it's 60 cents. There's no change on the SA box. It is $2.76. It was $2.76. So I think Comcast and this cable company are being very prudent, very sensitive, and very committed to providing a high-quality product at the lowest possible per-channel cost.
Stephen, what did you say full basic was going to go to, please?
If you wanted everything,
full basic.
It's going to go to $25.99 versus a potential that we could have charged $26.96. So it's almost
$1 cheaper than you could have gone.
So I mean, I hear the concerns about channel placements. I hear the concerns about trying to please everybody's viewership. We are trying to be responsive, and we will continue to do so. But this is about money. This is where it really begins. And I think you're seeing here the management of the cable company has made this recommendation to Comcast. They have accepted it, and we want to move forward. And I think it's fair, equitable, and I will not back down from the charges we charge for cable service.
Questions by commissioners?
I have one.
Mr. Waters?
I personally feel you should be commended for not going to the maximum, and I don't hear anybody up here asking you to back down. Number one, we don't have the authority to ask you to back down. But I think Roger said it best that, and you don't, because you're not involved, I don't think you're as cognizant as we are, that we receive many, many good ideas from somebody that either walks into my store or writes us a letter or says, hey, I saw on 14 and I think you ought to do A, B, and C. So it's a tremendous help to elected officials to have that kind of input, and that I think is what I personally am concerned about.
Well, once again, that was why I proposed was on the top of that list. I mean, we're about consensus building. We're not about independent thinking or doing it our way. We want to be received well in the community. We want your constituents to be pleased with the cable operation in this city. And not to suggest that we're going to be able to please everybody all the time, but I can assure you that's our objective.
Anything else?
I'll comment just to throw in, my recollection,
No.
I don't recall a cable company of the size of Sacramento Cable owned by an MSO, a multiple system operator the size of Comcast, that has made this decision. I would consider this unprecedented.
Great. Are we ready for motion, Mr. Dell?
Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
Yeah, move, receive, and file.
Moved by Mr. Natoli. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Yee. Any more discussion by board members? Commissioners?
Voice vote.
Voice vote. All in favor? You sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, you same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Val, I guess we gave you your $2 and change, so we hope we maintain a quality system.
Are you going to get that?
Maybe get mine right and get them squirrels from eating up all the cable.
That's clearly an objective.
That does bring a point. Because
Mr. Waters, you stop taking the squirrels over to Mr. Pennell's yard.
But you showed us some cable earlier on, and I heard you say 19. Is that where we're going, to that chewed-up cable?
Yeah, yes, that's what
That's the channel we're moving to? I mean, it shows on your block we're going to 19, and is that the one that 19 now
That's
today?
correct, but we're going to take action, spend what money is required to mitigate this.
So you'll have those squirrels fed before we get on there.
You better believe it. I must share with you, Sacramento has more trees per mile of cable plant than any other cable system in America.
And we're proud of that.
And you should be. And we're just trying to see that they are well fed with something else other than our cable plant. But
Okay.
Trees.
Mr. Yee?
Wayne, it brings up a point. The other night I was watching Channel 14.
How to feed squirrels.
I was listening to Sam, but
I was watching that myself.
but the sound at times went in and out. Is that the problem?
Well, I don't know if that's specifically the problem on Channel 14. As you know, we're still trying to complete our activities with the upgrade, and there may have been some issue. I don't know what the weather might have been that night, but that shouldn't have been the problem with Channel 14.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't.
This wasn't the problem.
It wasn't constant, but now and then the thing just went in and out.
Well, Sam needs to talk in the microphone.
Or whoever was talking didn't have the microphone on. I don't know which one it was.
Thank you.
You know, I'm gonna leave it alone. See, I'm gonna let you guys have your fun this week. I'll get you guys later on in the year.
You weren't just on cable, you were on the other channel.
Yeah. You didn't need a microphone at the school board.
Can we move to the next item, please? Could you read the next item?
Metro Cable personnel, programming, and budget revisions.
Okay.
Members, I'm going to walk you through 4 administrative items, primarily regarding programming on Metro Cable 14. I'll back up with, if you recall at our last meeting in October, we sought to play some video that was provided by one of the speakers, and the video wouldn't play. And I took some embarrassment and some gas on that. The reality was, or is, that equipment in the back room belongs to the county. That which is we are responsible for what goes out in the system, and we are a guest user of the equipment and that belongs here. I've spoken with the clerk of the board who's put a memo before you. I've spoken with the director of general services for the county and also with our staff. And we're willing to recommend that we assume responsibility for the maintenance of this presentation equipment here, in part because, 1, we have the capability, 2, we're here. Right now, the county has the radio shop from Bradshaw with responsibility for maintaining this. And as the clerk of the board has reported to you, the warranty is over. There is no maintenance contract. The cost of external maintenance contract were considerable in the excess of $20,000 a year mode. So my first recommendation is that you allow us to add 2/10 of a position, and that means bringing a production assistant 3 to full time. And that 2/10 increment is to maintain the equipment on the video presentation system and the audio system in this room. The caveat with the county is that we will not assume responsibility for any major replacement or repairs. Capital repairs are still the county, but we will take care of and do the routine maintenance and those things which we can do also by programming. We had the problem, which was a bad cable, fixed the day after our last meeting for the next people who wanted to use this chamber. We reported it to the general services folks and went on from there. So the first recommendation is that you authorize an increase, which is establishing another full-time position in Metro 14. But we are converting 8/10 of that position from what has been in our part-time budget over to the full-time. I'll take questions on that first.
No. Okay, it's been moved by
Second piece? Oh, okay.
No, I think they want.
You can do it at home. Okay.
I'm prepared to do it.
Let me.
Well, I just said we take the whole thing.
Time, everybody. If everybody wants to run the meeting, they don't need me. We just put a robot here, and we'll let him run it. I got both of y'all trying to run the meeting. Now, I'm not going to sit here and direct this. Now, Mr. Cox put a motion on the floor.
Now, why did you rule them out of order?
I'm going to do more than rule them out of order. I'm going to take this gavel and do something. Mr. Cox has a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Mr. Waters. Now, I know Mr. Waters wanted to have some questions. Mr. Waters, you have any?
That he said
he's already answered.
Oh no, he hasn't answered because I thought his motion was to vote on the. He's got 3 subsections within this one item, and we were going to take them a section at a time. That's what Rich suggested, and that's what Mr. Cox.
Is that what you're trying to do?
I was trying to take it a piece at a time.
I thought Mr. Cox, let me get clarification. Are you just moving at one piece?
I'll move this item because he said, are there any questions? There didn't appear to be.
Right.
I moved
so I thought Mr. Cox's motion was to move the whole item.
That was your intent?
I only moved number 1.
Now he's moving number 1.
But I'm
we're all on the
prepared to
same
move
page.
all 3 of them, but there may be some other questions.
Are there any questions on the item by board members?
On item 1?
Yes.
Yes. No, I'm talking about the whole piece, right?
Yes, on 2.
Okay, so this is what I want to do. I'm going to entertain the motion from Mr. Cox, take the second from Mr. Yee. Any question that board members have on the whole package, that's what it's on the table now.
I thought he was mentioning
Jimmy,
item 1.
No, I just don't know what he
wants to overrule it. That's fine.
There's no, if we're going to talk about the whole item, I want to move the whole item. So if there's any questions, everything is open. That's what I'm saying. So I put it on the floor. That's the motion that's on the table. Mr. Waters.
Okay, would you just go through the other 2 motions then we can ask
the other 2 items.
Actually there's 3. There's
the other 3 items.
2A and B and 3 and 4. Let's go through 2 very, very quickly. Supervisor Dickinson mentioned or asked us to look at, and we have been looking at a ongoing basis, the Metro Cable programming policies, what we do. Since 1988, our mission has been to cablecast government meetings. I've put some numbers in the item about how we've gone out and marketed ourselves to add new meetings to the government, to Channel 14 or whatever channel number we're going to have. I hope soon that we will be cablecasting the Sac City School Board meetings. We have been working with them for years in arranging that. We have made the offer and we are available to cablecast the new city of Citrus Heights. Where we've had a hole is our ability to cablecast special events and outside functions. We haven't been staffed for that, and it is not something that we have been able to reasonably do with the resources that we have. What I'm proposing for you, and this is an extension on a budget decision you made earlier this year, in which Metro Cable 14 staff have become the support people, the technical consultants to chambers to presentations in this chambers, in the city chambers, and in Folsom and Galt. For the board members that are here, recall the presentation that the county exec and department heads did on the strategic plan. All of that whole process was done by us in the back. We brought that together. It's been since now replicated at the community center. We've sent a memo to every department head in the city, and as well as Folsom, Galt's next on our list, that we will assist you in making presentations to your boards and commissions in these chambers. I'm recommending today that you that you approve a policy which takes that one step further, which allows Metro 14 to assist department heads, county exec, other officers, members of our parental jurisdiction in making presentations that may not necessarily be within a meeting, but making presentations which would be to community groups, to assist a department head in generating a meeting tape to community groups, etc. And or to use this format to take what might be an all-day session on planning, or all-day session, that kind of thing that goes on at the community center, and bringing that down into a 20-minute capsulization summary. For example, we're working with the city now on SAC decisions to bring that into a 20-minute video, which can play in the channel, but also can be used in community groups, used by you if you happen to be out on the stump. That requires a change in policies, because your current policies say our programming limitations are to only do programming which is cablecast on Metro 14. I'm recommending that you give us the option to produce cable programming which may not necessarily be for cable casting on Metro 14. I'm also recommending that you assist me in educating the other department heads that we keep this focus, which is a 20-minute presentation, one which would use this chamber or the council chamber as the main studio. And the reason for that is that we're not equipped either to edit or to go out and do field shoots. We don't have the big lights, we don't have the big plastic screens and the things that would make for a quality video. And as I mentioned, we don't have the equipment in the back that lets us take different pieces of video and edit it. The mode that we can do best, where we can best use our resources, is to plan a presentation, bring the speaker into this podium, integrate the graphics, the text in the presentation, capture it to tape, and put it out. So that's what what's the second recommendation is a change in your programming policies.
Excuse me, Mr. Dickens.
I just want to confirm that A and B are separate and distinct. Those are two different things you're describing then. Okay, so that you weren't limiting for example, the outside coverage of special events to 20 minutes that you then pre-plan and package. It's the separate kind of presentation thing that you're talking about.
We don't intend to, we're not limiting, but that's where we're strong. So I forget, Supervisor Dickens, you asked about one of the big presentations that was going on. Let's take, for example, the League of California Cities just did an 8-hour session on Prop 218. I would use probably 2 months' budget to try and capture that for cable casting at the Hyatt Regency. We'd have to rent equipment, we'd have to staff for an all-day like that, we'd need podiums, the whole thing. And in the end, replaying that entire conference where we are kind of tucked in would not be something that would be good video or watched. If we could bring the key speakers from that session here, plan a capsule of a 20-minute or 40-minute of what happened on 218.
Okay, let me interrupt you.
That's what we can do.
Let me interrupt you, if I may. Then you are tying these two together. Let's say, for example, yesterday, I think it was out at the Radisson, there was an all-day conference on agriculture and proximity to urban development. They had workshops, and I don't know, I didn't get a chance to go. Wish I had, frankly. there probably was a lunchtime speaker. Are you suggesting that if we wanted to capture some of that, then you're proposing that if we could get people to come here and do something for 20 minutes and be a pre-planned, then we would do it, and that would be the coverage of the special event that you contemplate under A?
Yes.
Okay. See, that's why I brought this up, because see, I think let me say this: if there's more money that we were to spend on an area, I'd be willing to spend money on the area of, say, picking out that lunchtime speaker, not trying to do the whole conference, for example, which might be excessively expensive, or I don't know, maybe the economics of scale actually work in favor once you go out there. But whatever it is, if it was just that lunchtime speaker, go out and cablecast the lunchtime speech, and then you could replay it at a more convenient time. So when I got home last night and was pooped, I could sit and watch what that speech was. I didn't get to go to because I was sitting here yesterday.
Yeah, Supervisor, our feeling is that lunchtime speaker is what we're talking about. But you know that a lunchtime speaker maybe doesn't talk for the whole hour, and there's introductions, and if the lunchtime speaker has is using slides at the presentation, the video of us capturing that in a dark room is very, very poor. If we can go out and get, like we did, like the cuts I've seen for SAC decisions, we've got 5 or 6 hours of tape that we're going to bring down, or in this case we're doing some editing, a little bit of a side issue, but we've got the mayor's 5 minutes of the mayor's presentation, and then we're going to bring in the graphics that summarize some of the next key points that the lunch speaker would have made, some more of the lunch speaker, maybe some comment by the city manager, county exec as it closes. We want to be able to get the essence of that lunchtime speech and get it down, and most of that we believe we can get down in a tighter time frame. A lunchtime speaker has the pleasantries, has all the other things that go on that we think we can capsulize. An hour, capturing an hour lunchtime speaker.
Again, I'm sorry, Rich, so you're talking about going out and recording on site real time, and then coming back and constructing something, not asking the person to come here and tailor their remarks to filming here.
In the example that you're describing with an outside guest making a speech at a Radisson, probably not. But relative to department heads who might be trying to educate the community about the strategic plan or SAC decisions,
right.
Or, we'll say...
Well, I see that as a different matter.
Okay.
I mean, that one, I understand. Yeah. I understand your approach.
We'd like to build that model and try applying it in both cases.
Okay. I would just like to see the opportunity here more open than that limitation of... Because the other thing, actually, that makes me curious about is the contemporaneousness, if there is such a word, of the production. If that conference was yesterday, then you take it all day long, and then you're going to come back and try to. You said you don't want to edit; you want to pre-plan.
Right.
I mean, I don't know when that production gets done and when it gets on the air. Now, in some cases, it doesn't matter. I suppose it doesn't matter whether I see that speech a month from now or I see it the day of the speech is given. But other things are not going to make much sense if they're not timely.
It boils down to a resource issue. I can tell you that the cost of doing production, even in reasonable quality, in a format that you're talking about, in the Radisson or at the Hyatt, are very, very high. And the quality of the production, again, because of the limitations on the equipment we don't have cameras that we can put back 100 feet that have the lenses and the lights that will pick that up. We don't have the audio equipment necessarily that ties in.
They could do it. Yeah.
The other bits and pieces that are associated with that, for us, become much, much more expensive than what we can do here and what we're budgeted for. If you'd like me to go back and look at budget augmentations to do those, I'd be happy.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily suggest a budget augmentation in this fiscal year. I would suggest only that the policy be open enough to permit us to pursue cable casting special events or events outside of these chambers without the limitation that you're proposing, And then in next year's budget cycle, and maybe it's not a practical possibility this year, or maybe only once or something like that. And then in next year's budget, we look at least considering what it would require to do that on a more active basis.
I don't believe this recommendation of this policy change is exclusive of that. Separate in here, I've described where within the current budget, we've built some discretionary dollars, and usually once a quarter we can take on an outside project. But again, those are hard for us.
I mean, because we have built-in money to do other government meetings.
That's right.
On a trial basis outside of these or the city council chambers, for example.
We're doing that. We're marketing that quite strongly.
Right.
But the conference type ones, we have had funds to do like one a quarter. But as I said, those are hard for us to do.
Well, if what you're saying is that the adoption of the policy as written does not preclude us from cable casting through Metro Cable special events in whole or in part in real time, then that's fine.
Yeah,
then it's just a practical issue of what you have the money to do. If you're saying it is limited by the second set of considerations, then personally I would rather see them split.
Yeah. I'm bringing to you saying that this is going to be our preferred method, but it isn't exclusive given the other approvals you have in the budget.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Just a brief comment to the discussions taking place here. It seems to me that we do have other entities within the framework of community programming that if there's something of community interest that may have an interest to a particular level of the community, whether it's government or business or whatever, but it seems to me that either with access or religious or our educational channels, we might be able to work with them. They do have some capability to tape out in the field, as I understand it, or take programming, maybe to cooperate and not have to build a whole other enterprise regarding the government channel programming to do that. And I would think we could work in concert and use some of the equipment and talent and expertise that's out there to the community already to do maybe some of the coverage of some of the things that you've talked about, Roger, maybe of general interest or more focused interest. And I would think we ought to look at that aspect too before we just start getting into an aspect of adding on because the Rich doesn't have the capability or buying additional equipment. Let's see what we have out there already and make best use of the dollars and the resources we have available to us in the community.
Well, I don't have any problem with that. It makes certainly sense to see what other resources are available, and there are some. I think what I'm looking at are those sources also have their priorities, which they set through their board of directors and other methods, which are fine, and they ought to do that.
Well, we might be able to contract with nothing else, rather than going out and buying additional equipment or additional lenses.
Well, I don't know what it requires, but the other thing is, I think there's an opportunity here to expand Metro Cable 14 to, not that we want to be a mini C-SPAN necessarily, but there's some opportunities in that respect, especially for governmental activities, and they don't all occur in the council chambers or in the board chambers.
And I guess where the cost comes up, as I hear Rich saying, is that when you're off location, so to speak, that's where you get the costs incurred because you're in a setup. So
sure.
Let me come back, Mr. Cox. I think I'm going to separate this as we did it. Well, I'll entertain a motion on item 1A. I'm sorry. Item 1. Item 1.
That was my original motion.
Yes, Mr. Cox, I understand.
Just one.
Okay. Second by Ms. Yee?
Yes.
Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 2A and 2B. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Natoli.
I'll second on the basis
Seconded by
of the
Mr.
discussion
Dickerson.
we've had.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor, use sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
And I would move item
Now
3.
we're on item 3.
Mr. Chair, I would move items 3 and 4 unless there's any questions.
I have questions.
Okay.
Which item, Mr. Waters?
Number 3.
Okay, Mr. Waters, will you ask your question, please?
Thank you.
Let me get a motion on the floor first. You moved it, Mr. Natoli?
Yeah, I move
Can I
item.
get a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dickerson. Now, go ahead.
Okay. In reading your staff report, Rich, I had some major concerns for number 3 as far as it relates to employees that would be replaced by the robot. And then I received as I came in today, your memo to me from yesterday that I hadn't received yet, and you have clarified a lot of my concerns in this memo. I just want it to be a matter of the record, though, that the staff report says these operators make $8 to $9 an hour, and your memo to me today says 7 to 8. Which is it?
So the cost to the commission with taxes are 8 to 9. The compensation to the employee is about $1 an hour less when you figure Social Security and the other issues.
So I guess again, your memo today to me states basically that nobody's going to lose their job, and that's my concern. I'd like it to be made a part of the record, because while I am in discussion with Jimmy Yee today also, we're both very pro
employment,
mechanical replacement of people through attrition.
Right.
So if your memo says that nobody's going to lose their job over this thing, and in fact there could be other jobs created, because you're talking about the Sacramento School District as a possible another source of outside operation.
According to the paper yesterday, the city schools are going to vote next week on our proposal to cablecast their meetings. We'll have to staff up for that.
So again, I guess I'd like to hear from you that none of these employees will lose their job.
I will confirm, yes. Yeah. In fact, our problem right now is that we are short-staffed.
I understand.
Okay.
Right, that's all I had.
Okay. Any other questions by
my concerns.
commissioners? Okay. All in favor of item 3 and 4, use the sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, use the same sign. Motion passes. Item number 5.
We have staff status report, A, franchise and license fee revenue distribution, and B, PERS 457 deferred compensation
Let me
program.
ask the question of commissioners. Are there any questions on this item? I know all of you have read the information. Everybody is so educated that you don't need to ask a whole bunch of questions.
Yes.
I'm prepared to entertain a motion to move it.
No, a question.
Oh, you have a question. Mr. Dickerson has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Why do we make any decision? Why do we propose to make any decision with respect to the city of Citrus Heights at this point? I mean, your own memo says it's unknown whether they'll be an active participant. Under what circumstances and conditions. I know you're going to try to divide the issue about
It's our opinion that
entitlements, but why do we make that decision before the city exists?
Well, good question. You don't have to make the decision before the city exists. It's our opinion, however, that they are entitled to their share of the revenue from cable television licenses and franchises effective with their becoming a city. Given
Come out of the county share then?
That's correct. They become another city. The county share drops by the numbers I've described within here. In terms of making a decision, you could defer this decision to March or to June.
Well, I would just argue that it's premature to make that decision. In fact, there are a number of financial issues that the city of Citrus Heights is going to have to weigh and deliberate. There are a lot of costs that they will incur, and sources that they may have. The relationship that city to be will have with the county is as yet unclear and undetermined. There may be a host of considerations that apply and that may in fact have an impact on distributions or claims such as this. I just think we ought to wait and see.
That's at your discretion. We were trying to be proactive on this, and I point out that this staff recommendation addresses two issues of revenue distribution. One is ministerial and one is the policy aspect of Citrus Heights. If it's your pleasure to wait, it's fine. It's our read, staff and council, it's our read and our recommendation it's our interpretation that is the intention behind the ordinance, although I must say that the ordinance is not explicit in this regard.
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me just ask a couple of questions, if I may, then. Would I be correct in assuming that if for some reason this cable commission does not decide to distribute a fair and equitable share to the city of Citrus Heights, they would be within their right to go out and negotiate with another cable company?
No, that's one thing that Harry took.
Let me.
That would be the issue.
When Citrus Heights becomes a city next month, in my opinion, they will have the ability to negotiate a cable franchise with whom they wish. That doesn't mean that the Sacramento cable television franchise will be illegal or inoperable within Citrus Heights, because Sacramento cable television has a property interest in that franchise. I think that franchise will continue. The question is, does that franchise or the portion of it that's within Citrus Heights go by operation of law to the new city as a successor in interest to the county?
And your judgment is?
That it would.
That there is a successor in interest?
Yes.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I do concur that that we have an issue here of distribution and one of fairness, and I believe that this board needs to give direction to the executive director to begin to talk with the city council of Citrus Heights and to determine their particular situation, and to the extent that we owe the City of Citrus Heights a 20% interest in the distribution, we ought to be prepared to make that. It simply is a matter of fairness and equity. If they're entitled to it, they're entitled to it, just as if the City of Sacramento or the City of Galt or the City of Folsom or the City of Alton, whomever. But we ought not to sit on this and say, let's wait, because they will be a city in January. There may be some other considerations, but we ought to direct our executive director to begin immediate negotiations, or negotiations is probably not the right word, but ought to be conferring immediately with the city council.
Any other commissioners? Waters?
Mr. Chair, and that goes to the question, would one of them then sit on this board also then, Rich?
Separate issue. First is the recommendation that you make the decision on allocating.
Would that be coming?
Secondly is that we have drafted and would send a letter to the city council-elect through LAFCO and other sources, inviting them to meet with us on that issue. Are they interested in being part of your JPA, first? Secondly, what are their interests relative to cable casting on the channel? We have already extended to them an offer to cable cast their meeting tonight, and they've declined. So we would be writing them, I mentioned this to you at the last meeting, we would staff that, go to them, find out what their interests are, come back to you with recommendations. I would be talking with SACOG and other JPAs who are facing the same issue of representation while we work that out. But I believe the first thing we do is find out what their interest is in participating with you.
Is anybody else?
The second part of this staff report on revenue distribution is a ministerial one, I believe. I bring you a budget in May for the next year, and I estimate the cable television revenues for the year. There's extreme interest on the part of the managers of the cities and county to get as much cash flow as possible. That estimate, as I look forward now to the end of this year, is off by a little bit, by $10,000. I'm asking you for general authority to every year administratively adjust our budget and the distribution to the cities and counties based on the overall percentage or on the overall gross revenues. I can't project 10 months in advance what revenues would be, so that's the second half of this recommendation.
What's the pleasure of the commission?
Mr. Chairman, yeah.
Yes,
your answer is the issue of participation on the commission or in this body is separate and apart from the issue, as you evaluated, of a right to revenue or income. But I don't understand that statement in light of the staff report, which asks for direction to, which recounts our previous direction to distribute to the parental entities, and then says it's unclear whether Citrus Heights intends to become a participant. But there's the advice that they're entitled to a proportionate share of cable revenues. However, the franchise is silent on this issue. So I guess I'm not prepared to support this resolution, given the staff report and the dialogue that's occurred here, at least in the absence of seeing the legal reasoning that supports that. And I don't know that there's any great hurry here, why that can't wait until we have a chance to have a full evaluation. And there's no problem with discussing it with the city council or staff once it exists of Citrus Heights. I don't think that's a problem. I just think we ought to know what their interest is and what ours is.
I brought this to you because in our discussions we spent a fair amount of time on this. I'm bringing this to you as a policy. I don't know that we have legal things we can reach to that are going to answer this for you. That's why I'm raising it now as a policy matter. This is not one that I believe is clear cut.
Well, if that's true, then I have a real problem with a staff report that says staff and council believe and advise that Citrus Heights is entitled. I mean, if you're raising this as a policy issue, that's different from saying it's an entitlement.
Okay, maybe a bad...
Is staff's position that they're entitled to this, that because of their successor and interest, that they're entitled to a percentage of distribution?
I think, yeah, it's my position that when they become a city, they become a successor in interest to those things that fall within their territory, one of which is the franchise as it exists today, that portion of it, and the same, that would transfer in the same manner, arguably, that annexations would cause a change in population. They could either, the city has the choice, the new city will have the choice of either deciding to go it on its own or in some way to participate in this organization. Right? That may make, those policy decisions may make differences as to how revenues are distributed, but I think the bottom line answer is Citrus Heights has an interest as a successor and interest for that portion of the county to the revenues of the franchise within their territory, because it's now their streets and roads that are the basis for that franchise.
Sure.
And while you can't, while you can't repeal it because it was granted and it lasts until, for another 20 years, they have the right to have the revenue from that.
Mr. Natoli?
Yeah, Harry, in light of that, then, is there, dependent upon what they may choose to do in the future, i.e., to allow for additional franchises not to have an exclusive one or to enter into a JPA arrangement with this body, does that then potentially impact upon what the amount of dollars they would be available to them, or because of their successor interest, that 20% is fixed, at least as long as there are the 5 entities in this county, and assuming there were more at a future date, then that might be split a different way. So that 20% is not affected then by what they may choose to do or not do?
If they choose to participate in your JPA and join into the JPA, and the distribution in the JPA stays the same way it is, it's on a population basis. Okay? And that population changes over time depending on what the population of the entities are. If a city in the abstract were to go on their own, their franchise fees, generally speaking, come out of a gross receipts basis. And so I think that there are issues there, and I think what Rich was trying to get to in the memo without potentially being very specific was that there are issues there with respect to whether the distribution of revenues under the settlement agreement in Sacramento with the incorporation of Citrus Heights is just, is on a population basis this way, and what action Citrus Heights may or may not take may impact that. The simplest thing, I think from most perspectives is just to start participating, but that may not be, that may not be the desire of this board, and that may not be the desire of Citrus Heights or the desire of any of the member agencies of this JPA.
But initially then, come January 1, with the advice that you've provided here in this memorandum, then, is that being a successor in interest, as you've defined it, then they, based upon current formula and them not having made any decision at that particular date, assuming they haven't, then they would be eligible for the 20% under the existing arrangement we have with the other bodies that have.
It's their share of the 20%.
Their share. Excuse me. Their share of that.
Well, I think they would have a very strong argument that they were entitled to.
So what I hear you saying, and what you would better define in your comments then, is that this should be made available to them. That's the recommendation here today, is that we make
that was the recommendation of Rich and myself as far as a way to go forward with Citrus Heights. That's why initially we say it's a policy decision. It has legal basis, but it is a policy decision to go forward at this point in that manner and contact Citrus Heights in that manner.
Okay. Thanks.
But your recommendation is to distribute 20% to the parental entities, including Citrus Heights, which has a interest based upon their becoming a city. So we're talking about that which we're going to do for the city of Sacramento, the city of Gulf, the city of Ileton, Folsom.
Ileton is not included.
Excuse me, and the county.
Right.
Okay. And because of the incorporation, Citrus Heights would receive their own allocation based upon population. Right. Mr. Chairman, move the item.
It's been moved by Mr. Cox. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Natoli. Any more discussion? Take a roll call vote.
Cox.
Aye.
Natoli.
Aye.
Dickinson.
No.
Yee.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Pennell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Okay. Public opportunity to discuss matters not on the agenda. I have 2 speakers. You have 3 minutes to speak to.
We do have more on item 5.
we have more?
Chairman, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
5B is a personnel item, one that I would normally bring to you at budget time. This is one that has some interest among your staff. This is a request to authorize the commission to participate in a deferred compensation program for its employees. For the last 14 years, the commission's been too small to qualify for many of the personnel benefits available to larger entities. PERS has a program which is available. It is no cost to the employer other than the process of
Move adoption.
cutting a check.
Moved by Mr. Cox. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Yee. Voice vote. All in favor, you sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Same vote.
Thank you.
Passes. Okay.
Last item, public opportunity to discuss matters not on this agenda
I
but
have
within commission
two
jurisdiction.
green cards. You have 3 minutes to speak to the body. Mr. Ron Cooper. And following him is Arthur Kittling. Can you push down?
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't see star.
I'm Ron Cooper, Executive Director of Access Sacramento, and I'd like to just quickly brief the Commission on activities with Access Sacramento, and also I want to mention, in the sake of time, that Liz Rhodes of the Ed Consortium did pass out this document, and would like you to see their update in terms of what's happening on cable channels 21 and 22. Access Sacramento is very pleased in terms of looking at some new agreements that we've just negotiated and some in the works. I'd like to really request that because the Cable Commission meets so infrequently now, or quarterly, thereabouts, that there always be an opportunity on the agenda for the grantees to report. This is the first time it hasn't been there, but we always have good things to say. First off, we did the city school candidates and shared those programs with Metro Cable, and appreciate the double channel airing in answer to the question of sharing resources. We routinely, when there's been difficulty with our truck, Metro Truck has offered theirs and vice versa, equipment sharing. As far as different events and so on, for example, the Comstock Club has been a regular. Every speaker of the Comstock Club has been on channel 17 now for more than 8 years. So that's a regular occurrence, and we'd love to look to any opportunities in terms of working together using the equipment efficiently. Some other updates. We are now finishing an agreement with the Cal Channel for statewide distribution of meetings outside the legislature. The Cal Channel is agreeing to cover our minimum costs for equipment and personnel, and therefore we will run those on our system and also then statewide on the Cal Channel system. And again, another use of the resources to best document local meetings and to share them locally and statewide. We appreciate that opportunity. Also, I distributed this blue document, which is the finalization of the Cosumnes River College agreement, where we're out there on weekends doing live programming. I was referencing before the Comcast initiative in Philadelphia to do live programming about the community. I invite each commission member and anyone in the audience to help us identify community-based organizations and nonprofit groups to be out in the Cosumnes studio live and doing programming and using that facility as well as our Coloma facility. We're continuing negotiations with Folsom Lake College. I'll keep you updated on that, but there is a possibility of some use of resources at Folsom Lake College to serve the Folsom area better. The Capitol Classic Shrine game, or Capitol Shrine Classic game, was taped and also live radio in cooperation with KYDS live, and also will be seen on Channel 17 this Sunday night at 7 o'clock. Invite you all to watch. It was a great game and a great football cablecast. And also we did the Sac State 5 home games and have a great relationship with the athletic department and Dr. Davidson. And I'd like to wish each of you a very happy holiday. And in 3 minutes, it's very hard to capture all the things that are going on. But please do watch Channel 17 and 18 and wherever we go, because there's great things happening about this community.
Excuse me, Ron. Mr. Waters has a question for you.
Ron, do you plan to do the Sac State basketball games at the auditorium?
Right now, we're scheduled to do 2 women's and 2 men's. And I'm glad you raised that question, because with the help of Sacramento Cable, we were able to locate some local businesses to help underwrite the personnel costs of the football games. And we're hoping that we can do the same so that you see Sac State and other college athletic events, men's and women's, year-round on the channels. That's something that we'd very much like to see, and I want to publicly thank Sacramento Cable sales staff for helping us in this initial effort, but hopefully we'll be able to locate businesses to help all year round.
Do you need talent?
Always looking for talent.
We got Mr. Dickus, who was an All-American, but
there we go.
We expect with moving to the Memorial Auditorium that the crowds themselves will increase, and there'll be a lot more interest in it. Thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to that too.
I've come to the conclusion, not only is the city council ready for a break, but the county board of supervisors need one too. Everybody's a comedian the last week before we go on break. We're getting on each other's nerves.
Just point out, Mr. Pennell, on the agenda, Ron raised a point relative to the franchisees. I think traditionally we've had that. Is that a change in our agenda makeup, or is that just left off by?
He was talking about them being on the agenda. I was going to speak to that, Mr. Matoli. That in the future would be good to probably set a place on the agenda where they can speak.
We've always had that. I mean, we traditionally have had that, have we not?
We've traditionally, but not always, and I use that at my discretion, looking at how much time we have to cover.
Yeah, but there always is. I think what they're saying is Rick, it wasn't on the agenda. I like to have them on the agenda probably early, so at least we can have some sense of understanding what they're saying, because 2 hours is really long, so give them 5 minutes and they can do what they need to do.
I think that was the point I was going to make, Mr. Chair, was that if time constraints, I understand you're trying to manage the agendas, Rich. I think that for Ron's benefit and the others from the franchisees or grantees, that maybe 5 minutes, and that way but because sometimes you have a lot you want to tell us and so forth, but that way it kind of keeps it limited, but assures you a spot on the agenda to make your
There is a theme in the sense of this is one opportunity where the grantees can come before you and help you understand, because you're not always watching us, you're watching Metro, what's going on those channels and why they're so important, and we appreciate your support ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you.
But I think that'll help Rich, I think, Sam, with a 5 minute.
Hey, Rich. Future. Arthur?
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm Arthur Ketterling from Citrus Heights, and I thank you for all the things that you had questioned, like with Wayne Bell and all of them on stuff and all of what had been mentioned. I would like to ask, and I'm pleased that Wayne is here, that there's a gentleman that's a Sacramento Cable subscriber, and I've talked with 2 or 3 people also that, like, where they have what they call, we used to, economical basic, which is limited basic. They can't get all the channels at all, but yet they're still being charged for the price and all. And there was one time, correct me, Wayne, if I'm wrong, I believe you mentioned with the commission that once that that the people that aren't getting the channels, that they would adjust their bill to that, being that they didn't get all the numbers of the limited basic.
Art, is this does this have to do? Are these people living in the 4th Supervisory District?
Pardon?
Do they live in the 4th Supervisory District? They live in Citrus Heights?
There's 1 or 2 of them that lives in Citrus Heights.
Let me suggest, Mr. Chairman, that if Art will get me those, let me get those to the cable franchise and see if we can't resolve any issue, at least get it clarified for you.
And they said that they were going to, they had called
Sacramento Cable, but they didn't get any call or any response back from them.
Maybe what we can do, Artie, if in fact, why don't you gather up the names and the addresses and the telephone numbers, and then let's distribute them to the various representatives on the commission, and I'm sure everybody'd like another shot at Mr. Val. I think we can get it corrected.
And also, I would like to mention that there's a customer that's also on here and lives in Citrus Heights, and he has has one box with the Sacramento with all the things that can be gotten and all, but he said that there's one TV that he has with where he doesn't have the box, and he's getting all the channels, but all except for one certain channel, and that's 34. That would be TNT. And he wants to know, is he supposed to receive TNT. All channels when he does not receive the pay preview channels?
Why don't you get his name and address and
I
number?
Can give you his name.
Okay.
And all.
Why don't you get that, and then let's take a look at it. Get in touch with the Cable Commission.
I can even give you the phone number and all as well.
Let's do that after the meeting then.
Pardon?
We can do it after the meeting?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Is that it?
And I was just wanting to let you know, on the one that he has the box on, he has the regular premium channels and all, but the other set, he doesn't have them, and he's not getting the full channels that he's supposed to be getting on the other set.
All right. Thank you.
All right. That's basically what I wanted.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Eva Nunez.
Ms. Nunez?
Just a moment, we're clarifying the item that she wanted to speak on.
She can talk.
Is it regarding cable? Her item is not regarding cable. There was a confusion.
Oh, okay. Is there anything else come before the commission?
Yes, sir. Oh, go ahead.
Well, don't everybody jump at the same time.
I was just going to suggest something that in the early part of next year that the commission schedule a workshop to take a look at the new world in light of the Telecommunications Act of '96. And I think that this commission ultimately, and more broadly the cities and county face the issue of what is our role and what do we do and how do we fit in the emerging world that's changing so rapidly with respect to telecommunications, in which the traditional form of cable, frankly, is turning more and more to be just another competitor. I mean, we mentioned DirecTV earlier with the telephone companies looking to tear up our streets and put cable through them and do other things, and that's just scratching the surface. I think it would be important for us to examine those issues and start evaluating our options. I mean, the fact is that Sacramento Cable, by institution, Mr. Val, Ms. Blank, and others by person, come here and we batter them over things on a regular basis. But I mean, they're only a small piece of the action.
If you recall, at the October meeting, we addressed this. And I have scheduled now that your next meeting would be that workshop, at least in Maine. There may be some other items we need to address, but the first week in March, we thought we would invite other county department heads and begin that process. It may take more than one meeting to get through all that.
Well, Mrs. Spossel, before we put something together, I'd like you to sit down with possibly myself and Mr. Natoli and Mr. Yee, if you'll serve, and it's sort of like a subcommittee to make sure we have an agenda as to what we want, or would you like to do it, Mr. Dickerson?
Well, I'd like to be part of the discussion.
Okay.
I mean,
So I want to make sure it's something that we want, that's something that we feel we need to get into, because I think he's right. It's a vision. Things are constantly changing. It's an area where things are changing day by day, and we need to see where we're going in the city.
Why don't I bring you an agenda, a suggested agenda for a proposed workshop, and then you can refine it.
Okay. And I think we ought to do that early in the year. I wasn't quite clear if you're talking about March as the workshop itself.
Yes, I was intending on making your March meeting a workshop.
Okay.
Anything else come before the body?
I have a question for
Yes,
Rich.
Mr. Waters.
Rich, we discussed about 6 months ago that on the reruns, that when they change the tapes, that instead of just going off the air, that there would be a sign saying, please stand by, tapes being changed. And now I noticed the last month or so that has slipped back to you have been watching Metro Channel, or you are watching Metro Channel without that, and people think it's over. So can we go back and research that as far as please stand by, like we had it on there for a while, so people know that it's not over?
No, it's over.
That's right.
Just tell them to change the tape faster.
I'll check that.
But anyway, the saying now is you are watching Channel 14, your government Metro, blah, blah, blah.
It's going to be Channel 70 next time I see it.
No, it's not. We're already down to 19. We're making fun.
Body is adjourned.
Merry Christmas, everybody.